This video is going to change your life forever. Hello, yogis. During my yoga teacher training, which happened to be at the studio I'm standing in front of, I learned 3 things about the human body that I think everyone should know from a very early age. Unfortunately, not everyone gets this kind of education, so I'm putting this video together so that everyone can know 3 very important things about your body. Thing number 1 that everyone should know about their bodies is how to stand. I mean, think about it. Have we ever really learned how to stand? But we need to start with how not to stand. How often do we find ourselves, especially in conversation, with all of our weight on one leg? It happens more often than you may think. So what does this do to your body when you're unequally standing? That side's ankle, knee, and hip joint are both bearing twice the amount of weight they're intended to. This will put undue pressure on those joints, throw your body's alignment off, and create muscle imbalances. Think of it as like a ripple effect moving all the way up through the body. Within your knee and hip, you have a layer of cartilage that functions like a cushion. Once the cartilage grinds away, it's gone for good. Chronic standing with all of your weight on one leg will grind away that cartilage faster, and you'll end up with lasting knee and hip pain. So how do we stand correctly? Well, the answer is simple, with equal weight distribution through both feet. Give it a try. You feel different almost instantly. In yoga, the Sanskrit word for equal standing is samastiti, really fun to say, or tadasana, which means mountain pose. And if you think about a mountain is immovable and powerful. When you give this a try, I promise you will feel the power of a mountain. The second thing that everyone should know about their body is to respect the most important muscle in the body, and that is the primary hip flexor, or the iliopsoas. Maybe you've never heard of the iliopsoas, but I can assure you it is a BFD. This muscle connects the legs to the spine and literally is the reason we can stand up, walk, run, and sit down. It's also the key to core stability. It's the muscle that allowed us as a species to come off all fours and into our bipedal position. Science credits our bipedal position with the rapid evolution of the human brain and central nervous system. The pace at which the nervous system and brain evolved totally defies everything we know about evolution. So thank you, hip flexor, for the rapidly advanced brain and central nervous system that we have. And there's even more to the psoas than just evolutionary advancement. We've all probably heard of the fight or flight response, and this is a trigger in the body to run in the face of trauma and danger. Now, when we experience traumatic and stressful situations, the body's instinct kicks in and grips the iliopsoas muscle. This can cause traumatic emotions to store themselves in your primary hip flexor, which is why poses that open and lengthen the iliopsoas can be just so profound. The third thing on our list is what happens to your brain when you clench your jaw. Now, this was something I did a lot of prior to my yoga teacher training, and understanding what happens when you clench your jaw made me do it a whole lot less. You may think this is something you can't control, and you're partly right on that, because the clenching of the jaw is an autonomous reaction that we're not necessarily deciding. However, the more you consciously catch yourself with a clenched jaw and release, the less you will do it. Let's take a closer look at the anatomy of the jaw, skull, and brain to really understand what happens when you clench your jaw. All right, so the masseter muscle is an extremely strong muscle. The jawbone, the mandible, is a very dense bone. Now, in contrast, the temporal bone, located on the side of your skull, the bone that actually houses the inner ear, is a very soft bone. When you grip your jaw, that dense mandible bone is pushing too hard up against the temporal bone. In your inner ear, this will cause disorientedness. And even worse, this pins the temporal bone right up against the temporal lobes of your brain. The temporal lobes are responsible for processing everything you hear and storing memory. Relaxing the jaw lets the temporal bone somewhat float and gives the temporal lobes of the brain room. This actually has a documented effect on your neurochemistry. Advanced meditators actively attempt to float their temporal bones in deep states of meditation. So there you have it. 3 things that everyone needs to know about their body from a very young age. It's a shame that this isn't taught in schools and is actually why I'm making this video. If you agree with me and wish you knew this stuff from an earlier age, then how about sharing with a friend and of course liking and subscribing. I was fortunate enough to have a very good yoga teacher training which had large elements of anatomy and science as well as ancient wisdom. It is so fascinating, the overlap between ancient yoga and modern science, that I had to make a video about it. Check it out.